Hello and welcome to Nick V Uncensored. Today we've got Lewis Herms, who's running for the state of governor for California, and we're going to dive into the updates with that, and also we're going to be talking about Trump and Nancy Guthrie. Lewis, thank you so much for joining me. How are you, and what have you been up to?
Good. Well, we've been on tour in the campaign, so I think we did about 3 weeks, and now I'm home getting some work done, and then we'll be into Los Angeles later this week and starting traveling again. But things are going phenomenal.
That's really good. That's really good. And what's happening with the debates and everything like that? What's the updates with that? Where are you moving with
Yeah,
that?
they're all good. I have another debate on March 1st, and probably one before or right after that we're trying to organize right now that we're putting together. So I know we're on an upward trajectory. We just went through. There's a really cool poll that just came out. So most polls that come out, they poll about 1,000 people. This poll polled 5,000, and it wasn't on the candidates. It was on the policies. And interesting enough, we were number one. So that means our policies are resonating with people. So they don't even know who the candidate was. They're just like, these are the policies we want,
Hmm.
right? So that's huge. I mean, because you go all the way down to, and I think the next closest would have been after of the people we know would have been Hilton. He's at 11%, and Chad Bianca was at like 3%. So there were tons very, very low compared to where I was. So that's exciting to talk about. For example, we're going to be putting it out over social media. I'm going to put an explanation so they understand what type of poll it was. It's a very unique poll.
Absolutely. Okay, great stuff. No, so I've never heard about this Nancy and Guthrie thing that you were telling me about earlier before we hit the record button. Why don't we start from the beginning? Because I'm sure there's people out there as well that haven't heard of it. And yeah, we can. I want to know what it
Sure.
is.
So it's Epstein, Nancy Guthrie, and President Trump. So we know who Jeffrey Epstein is. Nancy Guthrie is the mom of Savannah Guthrie, who is a popular host on many shows out here and a known Trump hater. And she's actually interviewed President Trump before. Her mom was kidnapped. And in the US news, it's the only thing that all the news is talking about. They're ignoring everything. So we can lose 400,000 children every single year. Not one of them make the news, but this lady, because she's connected to, part of their deep state family apparatus, of course, she's all over the news. So here's what's interesting. We have 6 million pages in the Epstein files, 6 million pages. 2.5 million of those pages are still hidden. People are getting excited, but 2.5 million are still hidden. So things can change drastically. But what has happened is after this last dump of files, you can see the MAGA black pillars are all over the place. So I want to go through the timeline really quick because I think it's fascinating
Hmm.
what's really going on. And I really believe that President Trump and his team is orchestrating this, and they're pulling the puppet strings, and I don't think people even know about it. So we'll go all the way back to the Q drops. So the
Okay.
Q drops pushed the Epstein conversation about 75 times. So they were pushing it a ton of times, right? And then of course you had the Epstein death, or did he die, in August 2019. So that alone kept the narrative going for years where the information was coming out, right? I find it interesting though, when the narrative started to die and people were just done with it. There's no arrest, forget Epstein. I know, not talking about it at all. Then the art of war, President Trump intentionally, in my opinion, planted a question about Epstein to Pam Bondi, and President Trump verbally pushed Pam Bondi aside and said, I'm going to take this. And he denied, and denied so heavily, and pretty much called us nutbags for even talking about this. And then did a post talking about his own constituents and said, you guys are crazy, stay away from the Epstein story. Why would he do that? Well, because then the left and the media went crazy doing what? diving into Epstein, looking for everything they could possibly find. So this was the art of war, in my opinion. And then when that story started to die, again, what happened? President Trump signed the Epstein Transparency Act, right? And then
So
a
that was
couple of
like
months.
was that, would you say that was like a contradiction to the deep state? The deep state's thinking, well, one minute he's saying,
Exactly right. Exactly right. So he's saying, "Don't look at it. Don't look at it." And then the deep state will tell you though, "Oh well, he was pressured into signing it. He wasn't. He's the president. He doesn't do anything he doesn't want to do." So then he signed in, I believe it was November, the Transparency Act, and then in January 30th, 3.5 million pieces of information were dropped. Imagine that, 3.5 million. So, but immediately, what did you see? You didn't see information about the 3.5 million. What you saw is you immediately saw all over the news and all over social media fake news about President Trump, old stories that were already deemed fraudulent stories or completely debunked. And you saw new fake stories about President Trump, and you saw AI of President Trump going viral as if he was connected to children, so on and so forth, right? So what happened? More MAGA people jumped ship. They got triggered. Oh my God, right? The fact that nobody sees what happened is the day and the day after that these 3 million were dropped, all this fake news came
mm,
out and all these, because they
mm,
were holding it. It was set up. They were waiting for this day. And then when the people online, you can call them the anons or truthers, whoever, they started debunking all this fake stuff about President Trump because it was all like, ah, Trump's implicated. He's the bad guy. That was a false narrative. But when that narrative disappeared, then what happened? Nancy Guthrie was in the news. And by the way, this is one person that God kidnapped. I hope she's fine. But the reality is, you don't hear anything about the 500,000 children that are missing, right? But this every single day, it's in the news story since I think it was February 2nd. So we're looking going over a week. You turn on any news channel in the U.S., all they're talking about is Nancy Guthrie. Now, who is Nancy Guthrie? For you that don't know, it's Savannah Guthrie, who is a hater of President Trump. That's her mom, and she had dinner with I believe it was her son-in-law and her daughter, right? And but Savannah Guthrie is an actual hater of Trump, and her husband, and this is where it gets interesting. Her husband is a known Clinton fixer. Savannah Guthrie's husband is a known Clinton fixer. So think about that. But instead of Savannah Guthrie finding out that her mom's gone in the morning, what's the first thing she did? She didn't call the police. She called that dirty piece of trash senator, Mark Kelly.
to say what?
Why? To say my mom's missing. What can we do? She didn't call the cops. She didn't call the local police, right? And what does Mark Kelly do? He calls the dirty, trashy Pima County sheriff
Mm-hmm.
in Arizona, right? Directly, which is very scandalous because this guy, we're already investigating him for election fraud, possible involvement in child trafficking. It goes very deep. He's already threatened. We think maybe embezzlement. These are the types of things we're looking at this county sheriff for. So now these two are connected directly. So Mark Kelly calls that guy, right? And then again, the narrative starts to shift away from that. People are starting to ignore it. So then President Trump, a couple of days ago, goes live and says, ignore the Epstein files again. And what does people start doing? They start digging into the Epstein files again,
But you know
right?
what's
It's
funny, Lewis?
genius.
Sorry I want to just interject here before you carry on.
Yeah,
'Cause I know you're great and you've got so much to say, but it's so obvious if Trump was really trying to deflect away from the Jeffrey Epstein list and he was really in it, that is the most stupidest thing for a clever man like Donald Trump to say.
exactly.
It was so obvious. I mean, there has to be. really intelligent members of the deep state that probably realized that Trump was onto something there, trying to deflect it strategically, strategy. It was just too obvious.
Yes, but it's not the deep state. It's their minions that that get triggered by this, and they can't stop their minions. So it's genius art of war. So in essence,
Can
he's
you define
by
what you mean by minions? Because for
so
me,
the people that have been following and listening to the deep state's narrative for decades, and they believe everything, and they're just gods. You know what I mean? The Jay Z's and the Beyonce of the world, they're just gods. So what happens is President Trump, what he did, I think, is genius, because what he did is he bypasses the deep state completely, and he's triggering the people that are brainwashed following the deep state narrative. And they're the ones that are going after this, and they're starting to jump off ship because they're finding out the people they idolized are the baddies and the ones on this Epstein list. It's just absolutely genius.
Mhm.
So when we go down this timeline, right? So now the left and their minions start digging again, right? And then suddenly the Pima County Sheriff is coming out with information, and suddenly they arrest a false ransomer, somebody that was claiming to try to get money from the Savannah Guthrie story, but they weren't really the ones that kidnapped her, right? So that's in the news. So now that's taking precedent. And then you have the Super Bowl in the news. So it looks like the whole Epstein thing's dying, right? And then back to Epstein they go. So the people are relentless. They keep bringing the Epstein up, and it's almost like they don't know what to do. So then the Pima County Sheriff goes into Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni, who is the son-in-law of, and next thing you know, they're taking evidence out of their house and making that a public display. So what I think is going on here is this is a battle to try to switch the narratives, get the narratives. So the baddies, which I believe is the mainstream media and the deep state, are trying to get the narrative completely onto the Guthrie story and off of the Epstein files. And President Trump keeps playing these little games and triggering people to start looking at the Epstein files again. It's brilliant. If you believe in the art of war, that's what it seems to be happening right now.
I had a friend call me up the other day actually, and she was pretty asleep in the beginning of COVID, but she started waking up quite quickly, actually, a lot more quickly than a lot of people. And she says to me, "It was all a conspiracy theory before. If you spoke about Jeffrey Epstein, the Epstein list, it was around COVID. You were a conspiracy theorist, and now it's all over the news. Now people are speaking about it." And I said, "Do you understand how a military operation works now? It all was released
Perfect.
by design, you know,
Yes. Yeah. Well,
so
you.
that you could show the people this is what a conspiracy theory looks like, made by the CIA to brainwash people into learning the truth from learning the truth,
Mhm.
versus 5 years later, 6 years later, it's coming out now, and not everything that you think is a conspiracy theory is not true. It actually can be very true." And yeah, it was a big wake up call for her. And I saw a post the other day saying, um, what I'm sick of the something like, we're done with the enough of the Jeffrey Epstein files. We want the Epstein trials.
Right.
you know,
Right. Well, let's think about this. So you have over 75 Q drops referencing Epstein. You have Isaac Cappy that was referencing
yeah.
Epstein. You have Pizzagate, which the deep state did everything to debunk. Well, now people are coming back and what looks like Pizzagate was true. Oh, I see. Oh, it looks like all the Epstein stuff was true about Hollywood and the political elite and those in Great Britain, so on and so on. Oh, look at that. Isn't that amazing how all of this stuff just magically became true all of a sudden? So this is a long drawn out process. I've had three separate reports of trials. So I can't tell you if they're true or not. I can tell you there are independent reports. Somebody said there was actually trials in the East Wing, not the West Wing of the White House several years ago. I don't know if that to be true. I was told that there's Gitmo trials. Many people have talked about that. And I was told that there was in international waters, there were trials on military ships. So I don't know that to be true, but these are all independent people that came to me and said they are aware of this. So I'm betting at least one of those are true. So you have the military trials with hundreds of thousands of concealed, uh, geez, I can't believe I'm losing my word.
Like documents and stuff
Indictments,
like that,
sealed
and
indictments,
indictments.
no,
Yeah.
sealed indictments. See, hundreds of thousands sealed indictments, and yet we're just supposed to believe the narrative and everything is fake. Uh, it's not. It can't be fake at this time. There's just too much of it.
Mm. So, do you think we're really going to see arrests happen in the public eye, or do you think we're just going to see them happening, or they're just going to happen in the background and we're not going to know about them? They should, they have to come out. They look, if we're run by, not run, I don't want to say that, but if things are done honestly, then transparency is important to the public. Oh, you've muted yourself and I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm
There you
hoping
go.
we'll see some arrests. I believe we will. I do also believe that there's going to be a process of negotiating, unfortunately. And I figured because this is so big and so deep, there's just so many people involved, and they got to make deals in order for some people to turn on some other people. So I believe they'll probably bring some people that we think are mid to high level people, and they'll negotiate with them. They'll say, okay, so here's the deal: you're going to go to jail, but your family, your legacy will be secured. We're not going to dirty. We're not going to muddy the waters with your name, and your family can still get your money. But if that's going to happen, you have to give us A, B, C, D. Right? I believe that's the type of things that are going to go on, and some of the harsher ones, I actually believe we'll eventually see it. Now, in the public right now, I get it, and I feel so bad for any of the people disclosing the information and really supporting the whole Trump administration for all these years that they don't see any arrests because I it's so painful not to see arrests, and we should demand arrests over and over and over, and we shouldn't just be eating our popcorn and wearing our froggy mask and sitting on the couch. We should be demanding arrests. Hold them accountable,
Yes,
and I believe they will start showing some of that stuff.
yeah, I really do hope so. Do you think that if they did receive the death penalty, do you think that would be public or not the showing of that public? And then listen, I don't wish anyone death, by the way, but I'm just curious about this execution, how they're going to roll out truth and transparency to the people. How, will they know about something like that?
Yeah, I think some of it will be. Again, I don't think all of it will be. I think they may even do a death penalty, but because of information that was given to them, they may secure the person's legacy. You know, it's hard to tell at this moment because clearly they are playing war at a higher level than we're used to seeing,
Yeah.
and we're in fifth generational warfare. In the public, they're probably already playing sixth generational warfare.
Interesting. Okay, great. Let's move on to silver and gold because silver has, it's done amazing things this year and last year, and gold as well. And I think there's been a slight drawback, and it's on a very big window and opportunity for people to get their hands stuck in. Why don't you tell us about that? Because you're the one that introduced me to Matt Geiger, and Matt Geiger has helped me a lot convert a lot of people's IRAs and 401ks into gold and silver. And a lot of people have doubled or tripled and even more their money, and they're very happy. And again, this is how you hedge against inflation when we exit the control system, the fiat currency control system, into real sound money. Can you please speak on that, please?
Yeah, well, the best thing I like about Verity Metals and Matt Geiger is the fact that his fees are sometimes a third of what popular gold companies are charging. because he just doesn't believe in marking it up. He believes in volume. But what I find interesting about silver, and I know a lot of people over the last couple of years have doubled, and some people have tripled what they purchased in the silver. But just in the last couple of weeks, I don't know if people have noticed this, is silver got up to $125 for a day, and now it's down somewhere around 80. That's a huge drop. And people may look at that as bad. I look at that as a huge buying opportunity, frankly, because if you look at the trajectory of silver, I'm not a financial advisor, by the way, but if you look at the trajectory of silver, it's for several decades, it was based in about 30 or 1/30th of what gold was. And then all of a sudden in the late 70s and the 80s, gold kept going up and silver kind of dipped, which was very, very odd. So if it's to get to that point, let's say theoretically gold is at 6,000, well then silver should be around $200, based on that metrics. And that's the way it's supposed to be, is it's supposed to track normally. But silver has been suppressed tremendously, and it's been an asset that's been messed with a lot. And I think the cap was taken off of it. I think the pullback has to do with Trump talking about, or what he started talking about, replacing the Fed and so on and so forth. And then I think there was some intentional sell-offs to scare the market, which they do. So to me, it looks like a buying opportunity, but people do what they want to do. But I think there's no better place to go right now based on just his fees alone than Matt at Verity Metals.
Absolutely. Well, Lewis, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm going to leave the link below in the description for Verity Metals Gold. The link's in the link. The link is in the description below. So do click on it and tell Matt that you've found us from us. Lewis, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Sure. Just track everything I'm doing at hermsforcali.com. That's our site for running for governor, and we're doing fantastic. We take donations all around the world.
And
Looks like
the link will be in the description for that as well. Sorry, Lewis.
yeah, and it's huge too, because with the trajectory that we're on right now, we're really taking it to the top two. I think we're going to bust through there really soon, but I had to say it. It takes money. It is what it is in this climate. So, but we love donations and volunteers, and we'll do everything to fight for you that we possibly can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. And Lewis, will speak again soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.